What's up, all you beautiful people? Welcome to another video. So we are going to use the whiteboard today. I'm going to break down for you a powerful framework that is going to help you build awareness, drive consideration, and make conversions a whole lot easier. It's what I call the invisible cell protocol. It came up last week as I was onboarding a student, and we were doing a diagnostic of his business. And what I found was he has a pretty obvious constraint. His business is doing about $2 to $3 million a year top line. It's an information business, so coaching. And it's built entirely off the top of this little iceberg. And he's running into some really big problems, which is specifically his ad costs, his cost of user acquisition is skyrocketing. And it's like the problem with ad spend as your primary driver for building a business is that it only ever goes one way. It only ever goes up. Ads are only getting more and more expensive. So your cost for leads is only going to keep increasing. And so what he wanted to do is he wanted to start using organic content to offset some of that cost, right? I'll put out some organic content in addition to the paid ads, and that'll help bring down the average cost per acquisition. Problem was, his content wasn't working. It wasn't doing anything. He was putting it out there, but it was still primarily the ads that was driving all of the business. So he's coming to me and he's like, okay, so Anthony, help me make good content. What do I need to do? And so this takes us to the invisible cell protocol. This is an iceberg. And the thing with an iceberg is, like, I was in Antarctica maybe 3 years ago. This was really interesting, is that like only 10 or 20% of the iceberg is above the waterline. And if any bit of this iceberg breaks, the whole thing shifts in the water. It just like flips upside down. Really cool. Has nothing to do with this, except for the fact that often we focus too much of our energy on the top 20% of the top of the iceberg. This is what we call the conversion portion. This is what everybody sees, right? It's the landing page, it's the call to action, it's the copywriting, it's the actual ad that you run. Like, this is what people overly fixate on. They're like, how do I optimize this? But the problem is, like, this will get you pretty far, but it's not everything. And there's 80% of the iceberg that's just lurking underneath the surface. And what I found is that if you can nail everything that's happening underneath the surface, the top 20% happens by default. This is why we call it the invisible cell. It's because once you do all of the invisible work here, the stuff people don't even realize that you're doing, it makes the conversion instant and easy, and your cost of acquisition comes way, way down. It's the difference between what we call sales-based marketing versus marketing-based sales. The goal, and what I'm going to teach you guys here, are the three things that you have to have in your content cycle if you want to build relationships with your customers, your prospects, to the point where they're buying from you without you having to run ads, without you having to go for the ask. They're just trying to find ways to throw money at your face, okay? So the very first thing that you gotta look at underneath the iceberg is this layer here, the trust layer. Like, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. The more that they trust you, the more likely they are to want to work with you. So the thing that we have to figure out is, what is it that builds trust with a user, with a prospect? There's a great book, Stephen Covey, the author of 7 Habits of the Highly Effective Person. He wrote a book called The Speed of Trust. And in there's like an actual formula that he follows to like build trust at speed and at scale. But really, like, the only thing I want you to think about is, what is trust? Like, what's the definition of trust? If I trust you, it simply means that I'm able to accurately predict your behavior. I can trust a rattlesnake because I trust how a rattlesnake is going to act when I get around it. Somebody who is two-faced and wishy-washy, and they're presenting one face in one situation and a different face in a different situation, I can't trust them because I don't know what I'm getting. I can't predict their behavior. So the very first thing that you want to be thinking about is, how am I showing up consistently with my messaging, and am I being predictable? One of the great things about making content, I've been doing content now for about a decade now, and we have a fairly large audience across YouTube, across LinkedIn, across Instagram, all these different places. But the true value of having made content for so long isn't the size of the audience, it's the fact that you can go back and you can see, of the 1,000 episodes we've done on this channel, you can see what I was saying last year. You can see what I was saying 2 years ago. You can see what I was saying 3 years ago, and you can compare that to what I'm saying now. Is it consistent? Or am I wishy-washy? Am I saying do this in one season and then do this in a different season as soon as, like, the market trend kind of shifts, right? Or am I being consistent? That's what you're looking for, is what's the consistency of your messaging, and are you being predictable? Another thing that builds tremendous amount of trust is being vulnerable. Being vulnerable is what actually connects people with other people. It's not your successes. It's not the accolades. It's like the things that you screwed up, the things that you messed up. Like actually showing the parts of you that maybe they hurt to show a little bit. Like you don't like showing that bit. And the reason we call it vulnerability is simply the fact that like somebody could poke that part and inflict pain on you. Now, here's the thing. This is something I really struggled with in my content for a long time, and it wasn't until I went to this event that my buddy Renee Rodriguez puts on called Amplify, where you learn how to speak from the heart and connect with people, that I realized I wasn't being vulnerable in my content. I thought I was, but it wasn't true vulnerability. What I was being is selectively vulnerable. What I mean by that is I was sharing stories of failures, but I was only sharing those stories of failure so I could then show how I overcame the failure and eventually got to a success, and look at me and how awesome I am. And people can see through that. They can see like, oh, you're just using the failure, the thing that you claim to be vulnerable about as like as a new form of armor to protect yourself and actually cast yourself in like this heroic light. So the true vulnerability is actually sharing what are you struggling with in the moment, and like being transparent about that. Like, so I did a video maybe 4 months ago about the $100 million real estate portfolio that I lost last year. That's not a story that I tell to like prop me up and be like, but look, I came back and built $1 billion. No, like I'm still going through the wreckage of that. It still sucks. Like that's vulnerability. That's true vulnerability. And that is something that people can trust. When you show them that stuff, they're like, okay, I know the good and I know the bad. I know what you are strong at and I know what you're struggling with. Builds a tremendous amount of trust. Next is mirroring pain. I can trust you if I can relate to your pains. And so what you want to be thinking about is like, what are the pain points of your customer or the prospect? What are the stories that they tell themselves about themselves? What are the things that keep them up in the middle of the night, that have them staring at the ceiling, that they just can't get out of their head? If you can identify those pains, and then articulate them in a way that the person goes, oh my God, yeah, that's exactly what I'm going through. You're going through it too. Because I can relate to your pain, I feel like I can trust you. And the thing is that most of your prospects, they won't be able to relate to your successes. The point of your product or your service or whatever is to help them get to that point. Like they're like, I want to work with you because I see the success that you have. I want to get there. Obviously, they cannot empathize and connect with the success that they have not gotten yet because they have not bought from you yet, right? So the only way to connect with them in that case is the pain that they're feeling beforehand. You can say, I felt that same thing. I went through this and here's how I fixed it. But using the language of the pain that they're currently experiencing is what will enable them to trust you more deeply. Last but not least on this side of things, guys, is the 2 stories within every story. So when you're doing your content, I want you to be thinking about not just what we call the external story. A lot of our content focuses exclusively on the external story, the thing that happened that the hero had to go do. Like, oh, I went and I discovered that my business partner was lying to me, that he had embezzled millions of dollars, that he had committed fraud, and then I had to shut down the business. I had to fire 20 employees and lost all the real estate. My personal guarantees on $40 million of real estate came due, and I had to file bankruptcy. That's the external story. But the thing that makes people connect and trust you at the end of the day isn't what happened, but what that thing meant to you. That's the second story. It's the second story within every story. It's called the internal story. It's not what you did, but why you did it and what you felt when you were doing it. So when I tell you like that I felt so alone, I felt so overwhelmed, or I felt like an idiot, I felt ashamed, I felt like a fraud myself because I was connected with this, like those are the emotions that other people can connect with. They don't connect with what you did, they connect with why you did it and how you felt as you went through it. So take those lenses through your content, through this part of the iceberg. And the question to ask is, do people know you or do they just know about you? There's a difference between them knowing you and knowing about you. We want people who know us, how we think, how we feel, because that makes us predictable. That makes them trust us. It makes it much more likely that they're going to want to do business with us. All right, let's go to the second part of the iceberg, which is the belief portion. By the way, this is the framework that I teach in addition to a number of other frameworks in Escape Velocity, which is our group coaching program. If you want more trainings like this, just drop trainings down in the comments below. I got hundreds of these that will help you build a bigger, better, more awesome business faster with less pain, hopefully no bankruptcy in your future. But let's talk about belief. So At the end of the day, one of the interesting things I've experienced with selling products, and I've sold hundreds of millions of products at this point, is that a lot of times people don't necessarily doubt the product or service can get them the result. What they actually doubt is their ability to get the result with the product or the service. They doubt their ability to show up consistently and do the thing, especially if we're talking about coaching and consulting. They doubt like, oh, I've done this before. I've been down this path. It didn't work in the past for me. So like there's this internal self-doubt about whether or not they're actually going to be able to show up and do the thing. And what we need to do is we need to get ahead of these limiting beliefs, and we need to turn them into empowering beliefs as soon as possible. Because if we can call out the belief that they're limiting, that they're lacking early enough, it's simply an obstacle. But if we wait until it comes up, say on a sales call, when we're in the conversion cycle, then it's an objection. They're objecting, oh, I don't know, I've done this before, I've worked with coaches, it hasn't worked for me in the past, right? But if you can call it out early enough, it's just an obstacle to be overcome. It's much easier to overcome obstacles than it is objections. Now, the way that we do this is in a number of different ways. One is you want to shift people's beliefs by showing yourself or other people who are like them going through a similar belief shift. So that could be, I used to think XYZ until I started doing ZAB. Or Julie used to struggle with XYZ until she came over to us, and then we helped her implement the system, and suddenly she was getting the result that she was hoping for, that she never believed possible for her, right? You want to, as much as possible, use your frame or your student's frame or your customer's frames that have already gotten the results as the vehicle that your new prospect can see themselves and go, oh, I relate to that. I'm that person. That's my before. I want their after, so therefore I should go work with this person or buy this product. With that, one of the best things that you can create is what I call a testimonial archive that kind of revolves around 3 to 5 of the major belief busters that your unique prospect is likely facing. So like in most businesses, you probably have 3 to 5 core objections that the prospect comes with. They're like, oh, this won't work for this reason, or I'm too busy, or it's too much, or whatever the belief is that they have, right? You know what your beliefs are that you need to bust. So what you want to do is every time you get a result for somebody, you want to get a review from them, you want to get a testimonial video, and you want to do a little case study. And then you want to take those testimonials, you want to put them into a little folder based off of the different beliefs that particular testimonial helps to bust. So here's Sarah's testimonial. She believed because she was a mother of 3 working 2 different jobs that she didn't have the time to do this program. So boom, I got all of my I don't have enough time belief busters over here. Or here's Susan, who thought she didn't have enough money because she was only making $20,000 a year. She couldn't imagine a world where she could be doing like 5x that in the next 6 months. And so she couldn't find the money to invest into this program. Here's her belief busting story about how she borrowed the money from her friend. She went all in on herself and she trusted that she would get the result. Voila, here she is, right? So you want to figure out what are those 3 to 5 core beliefs your prospect is currently holding on to that they might not even be able to articulate. You put them into a little folder so that when you get to this part of the conversion cycle, as you hear those objections, you can say, actually, you remind me a lot of Susan, or you remind me a lot of Jim over here. Let me send you what they had to say. So much more powerful when you send them a video of the person whose exact pain point and belief that needs to be busted matches theirs. Suddenly it's like, oh, this sounds like it's exactly what I need. And so the thing that we want to be thinking about here in the belief portion of the iceberg is, are you addressing what they think about the product or about what they think about themselves? I'm telling you, most of the reason that we don't purchase has less to do with the product and more to do with ourselves. You solve for that, it makes the conversion cycle a whole lot easier. Now at the very end, guys, by the way, guys, I'm going to get over here to this side of the equation where I'm going to show you how to start integrating this into your content on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. But let's go to the bottom. The bottom part of the iceberg is the deepest part, the most invisible part. And yet, I think this is probably the single most important part of the invisible cell protocol. Because it's not about, like, at the end of the day, it's not about what people get. It's about who they become in purchasing the thing. And when you can align somebody's personal identity with the thing that they're buying and saying, this reinforces what I believe about myself to be true, it makes it really easy to get people to purchase. So like, think about the most powerful, influential, impactful businesses that we've ever seen. Apple started with the messaging, it's for the crazy ones, for the people who are world changers, who think differently. They don't want to be part of the PC culture. They want to express themselves with creativity. It was an identity that the consumer had about themselves that the product helped to reinforce, and they wanted to live into that. And so what you want to be doing here is thinking about, first, how do I frame us versus them? So if you have an identity as being one of the crazy ones, one that wants to change the world, that doesn't want to conform, that's us. Who is the them? Well, it's the PCs, the bureaucrats, it's the government. It's like the conformity, the gray people over here. We're in a world full of bright colors over here, right? Us versus them. Second thing that we do with our messaging is we talk about people like us. So we frame us over here and them over there. But you know what? People like us believe that our tools, the things that we buy, are an expression of who we are. And that tool is all about living in alignment with the person and the things that you're capable of and expressing your true creativity to make the world a more beautiful, glorious place so you can live it on your terms. Whereas those guys over there, the PCs, they just want to conform. They just want a piece of soulless equipment that they can just pull out of a box and it starts working. It's not all about productivity and efficiency. It's about the unique expression of your creative genius. And if that's you, and if that's like me, and it is, you buy this product. That's how you do it, okay? So the thing that you want to think about here, at the very bottom, this is probably the most important, is you sell to the soul, not the role. So this is the mistake a lot of people make, is they do demographic research, right? So what they'll say is, oh, we sell to 20 to 25-year-old white men making $40,000 a year who have aspirations of blah, 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 blah. That's demographics, that's psychographics. But what you want to sell to is the soul. Who is the person inside? Who do they see themselves? What is the identity that they have currently? And what is the gap between who they see themselves as now and the person that they aspire to be? If you can paint that picture of who they are now, who they aspire to be, and that your product or your service is the bridge from one to the other, they are going to throw money at your face. I promise. That's actually kind of a problem. You're like, that's not how I would like to receive payment. Please stop throwing money at my face. I take Stripe, credit card, but cash to my face is gross. Okay, so I want you to think about your product is the person casting a vote for who they want to be. And if right now, like, your product isn't positioned in a way that the person buying it is casting a meaningful vote, then you haven't really tapped into the identity here quite yet. So the question that you want to ask is, does my content, does my product give my prospect an identity to step into, or does it just give them information to think about? You give them an identity to step into, they're gonna step into it, they're gonna want to do business with you. And at the end of the day, like, there's countless products and services just like yours. I know, like, you're a special snowflake, you have a unique mechanism, and like, nobody does what you do like you do. But the truth is that there are. So what is the thing that's gonna make somebody want to do business with you versus this person versus that person? The identity is the story that you give people to live into. So here's how to do this, like, in a practical manner with your content on an ongoing basis. When it comes to building trust, the three things I want you to be thinking about how to put into your content is, one, the internal stories, like the story of who you are, the story of your values, the story of like how you got here, like more stories using the two stories, external and internal. That is what's going to connect people, because at the end of the day, like, story is the source code of the human experience. People relate with story. And especially in an age of like AI, information is so prevalent, like, you're not going to stand out anymore just by using, oh, here's a listicle of 3 things that you need to tactically do, right? Like, you need to give people a story to live into, which is, if you remember, like, at the beginning of this video, I started with what? I started with a story about a client coming in and he's struggling with the fact that his cost of acquisitions is only going up and he can't figure out this part of the equation, right? So story to build trust. Number 2 is behind the scenes. So, like, you can't see this, but as we were recording this, my boy Nuj is over here. He's recording content of us recording content. It's behind the scenes. Now we can use this, we can post this, we can say, hey, this is what we're doing, right? Like, showing people what you're doing behind the scenes or what you're doing to help clients get results, very, very powerful for building trust. Third is show messy middle content. Messy middle content is like the content that you're going through in real time trying to figure something out. Like, you don't have all the answers, you're not perfect, you're not flawless, and the attempt to project only that image is going to do you great harm. So lean into the fact that you're human, that you make mistakes, that you're not figuring it all out, and share those stories. So here's a mistake that I made. With this prospect, we brought him in, we did this thing, but I was wrong. He wasn't a good fit, and I knew it at the beginning, but I let him in because I thought that there was a chance, but it turns out like I should have stuck to my guns, because the people that we can serve best are XYZ, and this guy, he was XYD. I saw it, but I didn't do it. And at the end of the day, we didn't get him the results that I wanted to, which just reinforces, if you are an XYZer, come talk to me. Like, that's the person that we can serve, right? So, messy middle content. Now let's talk about belief. How do you integrate belief busting into your content, into your ongoing process? First is, every month, I want you to think about what is the primary belief we're gonna bust this month. If you have more beliefs, you don't want to do a whole month, you can do it in week cycles. Depends on how much content you're putting out. If you're like us, we're putting out content every single day across multiple platforms, then you're going to condense that down to weekly belief cycles. But like, what's the belief this week or next week that you want to really call out in particular? And then you want to integrate that into your emails and into your videos. And what I call silent objection overcomes. So like, you put in the story of the belief that you're trying to undermine or reverse each week in an email or in a video format. Like, that is just having the guiding principle of like, what is the belief that I'm trying to break this week, will help guide the content so much more than just going into it and being like, okay, I guess I'll just do like a top 5 listicle or like 3 things every person needs to know. Like, focus it around the belief. And if the content doesn't address a belief and then bust it, it's probably not good belief busting content. And I'm not saying you do this every single day. I'm just saying you need to be integrating it consistently throughout the week or throughout the month, whatever your cycle is. Last, let's talk about identity. The thing that you need to be thinking about on an ongoing basis with your content is how to engineer identity shifts. There's a couple different ways that you can do this, like intentionally. The first is name everything that you do in an aspirational way. So name all of your frameworks, name all of your products, your unique value propositions, name them, give them a name first of all so people can hold on to it, but name it in an aspirational way that paints the picture from where they are to where they're trying to go, so that the product becomes that natural bridge as much as possible. Next is ask identity questions directly. So, are you the type of person who does XYZ? So like, if you're watching this, you are the type of person that I know has a business. If you watch this long, you have a business, you're trying to grow it, you're trying to be a better entrepreneur. My guess is that entrepreneurship is not just about making money for you. Because if you resonate with this piece of content, you resonate with me, you've seen my other stuff, it's not just about making money. It's about your business being an expression of who you are. It's a vehicle for expressing mastery and having fun while doing it, and not just like, it's not all in service to the bottom line. It's about actually building something of meaning and impact that's fun to do and is enjoyable for you as well. It's like, it supplements your life, right? So that is the type of person you are. And if you're that type of person, I would highly encourage you to go to, beyondtheapex.com, apply for the group coaching program. But that's a soft ask, right? All I'm saying is like, if you can incorporate the trust, the belief, and the identity pieces into your content, that is how you're going to shift to marketing-based sales. At the end of the day, like, you're not going to have to ask people for sales. You're not going to have to worry so much about, is your landing page dialed in? Is the call to action perfect? Like, what is the ad that you're running? You're not going to have to worry about that stuff as much, because I'm telling you, when you nail everything below this iceberg, people just show up at your door that you have never thought of before, and they're like, how do I work with you? That is the type of business that will scale. That is the type of business that's a hell of a lot of fun to grow, because you're not constantly chasing people. You don't have to worry about if the ad platform on Facebook or Google changes tomorrow, and next thing you know, your ad cost goes skyrocketing and your business just falls apart because the margins disappear. Like, this is where an awesome business exists. And when you do this, it's what we call escape velocity. So that's going to do it for me, guys and gals. I'll see you in the next video.